So today I'm going to show you how to make this wonderful scrappy block. This block was inspired by a lessons from an old quilt episode that I posted, and I'll put a link to it at the end of this video and in the first comment if you want to see it. That was the inspiration. It's such a beautiful quilt and I just had to make the block and I wanted to share it with you. And as I usually do, I made the block in many different colorways. I have one that's kind of patriotic scrappy. I have a 1930s reproduction one. And then I think my favorite is this one with the turquoise. Look at this one. Look how pretty that turned out. So you can make these for holidays. You can make them for a baby quilt. Oh my goodness, it would make a beautiful baby quilt. Anything you want. Make sure you stay to the end. I'm going to show you a viewer's quilt. She made this quilt, oh, it's so beautiful, out of the last scrap block tutorial that I made that also was inspired by this antique quilt. So make sure you stay for that. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this very scrappy. You don't have to do it scrappy, but it's really a cool effect when you do. So let's get started making the Scrappy Pinwheel block. I took all my scraps that I could find that were in the same color family. You can see these are a lot of browns and warm colors. They all have the same tone to them. Out of each of these colorways, I need 4 that are 4" by 4" square and 4 that are 3.5" square. Now, if you want to make it easier, you can always make them all out of 4 by 4" squares. That's fine. Then you can trim them down. But if you want to conserve fabric, this is the way to do it too. The same is true for the dark or medium fabrics from this color family. So you can see I have 4 that are 4 by 4. And I have 4 that are 3.5 by 3.5" square. In addition to these, you will also need 4 pieces that measure 3 inches by 6.5 inches. And there are 4 of these. Okay, so we're going to set these aside and we're going to start making our half square triangles. So to do this, all I'm going to do is take my scraps and put right sides together with a light and a dark, and I'm matching up the sizes. Because I want this to be very random, I'm just not really caring what goes with what. So now I have 4 sets here of the 3.5 squares, and I'm going to do the same with the 4" squares. So now I have 8 sets. So I'm going to be using the 2 at a time method for the half square triangles. You don't have to. You can just cut your triangles and piece them that way. I find it very difficult because there is a bias, and the bias is the stretchiest part, you can see here, of the fabric. And when you're sewing with the stretchiest part of the fabric, it can get distorted really easily. So I like to do it this way. If I don't use the other half, the other set of the half square triangles, I'll just put them in a bin that I have that's all like scrap half square triangles. So that's how I'm going to do it, but please feel free to do it however you'd like. Next step, we're going to draw lines. And yes, there is that fun tape, this stuff that's great that you can put on your machine. I do use it just for reassurance, I guess, but I'm still like a line drawer, just like I'm a pinner. So to do this, I just line up one of my rulers, and you can use whatever ruler you have, on the points. And notice I am going to be drawing the lines with these 2 together, the right sides together. It makes it a little bit more stable when you're drawing these lines. So I'm just going to line it up corner to corner. I'm going to draw my middle line. This is going to be my cut line. And then I'm going to go over a 1/4 inch, line up that cut line, that line that I just drew here on that 1/4 inch line, and draw another one, turn it around, and draw another one. These are my sew lines right here. And then this is my cut line down the middle. And I'm going to do that with all of these pieces. Okay, these are all marked and they're ready to go to the machine. The way I like to do it is to just turn them so I can grab a set when I'm at the machine. Something else I just wanted to point out, there's some really great tools for drawing those 2 lines. This one's by Fons and Porter, and the way this works is you just line it up, that center line, on your middle, so you have the points right on either side, and then you draw the lines on either side of this. Really great tool, and this comes in many different sizes. So you can do it many different ways, or you can just use the tape like most people do. I'm just weird. Now we're going to take this to the machine. I'm going to show you how to feed them through so they nest together really nicely, and it goes really quick. Okay, so here's my pile. I'm going to be feeding them through going to line up that line, and you can see when I do that, this middle line is lined up on that black line, and this is on the red line. So if you are using this tape, that comes in handy. And I'm going to start sewing. Now when I get ready to put the next one in, I'm going to take this side with this line, line that up on the red line, the sew line, or on the pencil line that I made, and put it through. So I'm nesting these seams together. Take my next one and just keep going. When you're all done, you're going to just cut them apart. I just use my blade saver. And then I'm just going to turn them and do the other side. And I'm going to do that to all 8. Okay, now that I have them all sewn, I'm just going to clip them apart. And I think I got those 2 already. All right, so here are all of my 8 sets. And the next thing is very, very important. We're going to press them to set those seams. You can see how they kind of bubble a little. If you don't set those seams, it doesn't lay as nice. To do that, we're going to take our ironing pad, lay our unit down, and just hit it with the iron. I'm going to do that with all of these. Now that they are all set, we are going to cut these apart. And we're going to cut right on that cut line. Now I'm going to get 2. So I'm going to put 1 aside because I only need 1 for this block. And I'm going to cut all of these. So now they are all cut. I only have 1 set of each. I should have a total of 8 half square triangles. The next step is very important, at least for this technique. We are going to peel back that top, the dark fabric, and we're going to push that open. And I'm going to do this just very gently with my fingers first and then hit it with the iron. This is a bias edge. This is very, very stretchy. So you want to just respect it. Hit it with the iron. And then I'm going to put my clapper on it. This is going to ensure that this is very flat because I'm not opening these seams. I don't love to open seams. Sometimes I do, and you'll see in this block that I will, but I don't love it. All right, now your clapper, if you don't have one of these, this is a great tool. I'm still a little confused on how it works. People say that it cools down the block. Other people say it draws the heat up through the mat or through the ironing board into the wood. Either way, what I have learned to do is when I'm done heating it, when I'm done putting it on the seam, I flip it over because this is a little warm and I want this to cool off for the next one. Just a little tip. All right, I'm going to do that with this one. Hit it with the iron. Take my clapper, put on it. When I'm done with the clapper, I'm going to flip it so this cools off for my next one. And I'm going to do that with all 8 units. Okay, now that they are all pressed nicely, it's time to trim them down to the size we need. So we have 2 sets. If you remember here, we have 4 bigger ones and 4 smaller ones. Okay, so there's a couple ways that you could trim these down. I personally love to use the block lock ruler. If you've watched any of my other videos, I love, love, love this tool. And the way this works is this groove here on this side locks, just like it says, right onto that seam. So you can trim it up. This happens to be the size we need, which is 3.5 by 3.5. And all you do is trim around it like this. Trim it up. I like to use a rotating mat. Makes life a little easier. If you don't have a rotating mat, you can always use a mini mat. Anyway, it gives us a perfect 3.5 inch half square triangle. So I'm going to move this out of the way and show you how I do it with a mini mat and with a regular ruler. So to do this with a regular ruler, if you do not have the block lock, because they can be pricey, what you're going to do is line this up so the diagonal on the ruler is right on your diagonal. And you want to make sure that your 3.5 mark, you're a little bit beyond it or right on it because you don't want to go too small. and you are just going to trim this side, turn your little mini mat, trim this side, turn your entire block, line it up again, and this time you want to make sure you are dead on with that 3.5 inch mark, which I'm going to turn this over. It's always my trick, so I'm not distracted by the numbers. And then I'm going to trim this side and this side. Okay, so there's your 3.5 inch half square triangle. Okay, so for all the big ones, you're going to trim them down to 3.5 by 3.5 inch square, and the smaller ones you're going to trim down to 3 inch by 3 inch. So let me show you how to do that when you may only have one of the block lock rulers. So you line this up, and you can see the 3 inch mark is here. It's sort of going to do the same thing that you did with a regular ruler. You're going to line up one edge. I should probably turn that. Let me turn it so I can make sure I get that good. And the only difference with the block lock rulers, you can just slide it down till you get to your 3 inch mark. And you cut again. And yes, I can cut with both hands. Sorry guys, I know not everybody can do that, but it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to do. And there you go. You're going to do that with all of these, and you're going to have a total of 4 3 inch half square triangles and a total of 4 3.5 inch half square triangles. So I'm going to finish these up and meet you back here. Okay, now that they are all trimmed, it is time to build our block. So to lay this out, we are going to make our pinwheel in the middle with our big pieces. So our 3.5 inch pieces. I always have to look at the picture to figure this out. There we go. So there's a Scrappy Pinwheel. And then these guys go in the corners. Like so. And then these go here. Now remember, we have to sew this unit together, so these are going to be a little short, or at least appear to be a little short. They really aren't. Like that, and like that. These are really easy to sew together. You're just going to take your middle pieces, put the right sides together, sew down this seam 1/4 inch, open them back up, and then sew those 2 units together. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Because I press to the dark side when I press these, remember that trick? They should nest together, so when I sew this edge, it'll be nice and straight. But you know me, I'm still going to pin. Pin right in there, and right in here. And of course, to hold it all straight, I'm just going to throw a pin in down here. Okay, I'm going to do the same for this. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch down each of these sides and meet you back here. Okay, these are sewn. I'm going to, you guessed it, set my seams. Okay, so they are set, and I'm going to press to the dark sides. If you look at our block, we have 1 light sewn to 1 dark. I'm just going to open this up. There's no bias edge there, so you don't have to worry too much about it. And do the same to this one. All right, next you're going to take opposites. So you're going to lay them out like this, and you're going to lay this on top of this. And because we press to the dark side, they should automatically nest really nice. We're going to pin it and sew 1/4 inch down that side. This is all sewn. We're going to set that seam and open this up. So this is the only place in this block that I do open the seams, and I usually don't open seams, but I do on this one. It did make it lay a little bit nicer. So to open this seam, what I like to do is wet it, and I just have some best press here. And I wet it because, for 2 reasons. 1, it helps it lay nice and flat, and 2, it allows me to get in there to open up that seam, and I just use my seam ripper just to fold it down and then play with it with my iron, basically. Maybe that's why I don't open my seams, because I don't know, I can't find a good technique without burning myself. Nah, the only reason I do it is because I like the feeling of the nesting of the seams, if I'm being completely honest. All right, and then I'll just turn it over and give it a good press. You can see I'm a little off here. We can trim that up if we want to, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, so that is your pinwheel block, and you could leave it just like that. You don't even have to do anything else to it, but you will notice that our pieces now fit, just like a puzzle. And this is when you just do it as a traditional block. You're going to sew this row together, this row together, this row together. Press towards this bar. So when you're sewing these together, you're going to press towards this bar. When you're sewing these together, you're going to press towards this bar too. I'm going to sew these together and meet you back here with the finished block. And here it is. It's all finished. You can see everything lays nicely. I have all the seams nested, and it is just wonderful. And just like in our inspiration quilt, you can see how when you put the 4 scrappy blocks together, or more, I haven't made more, but once I do, it will look this way. It gives you this wonderful secondary pattern in the corners. I love the effect. I love the way it turned out. As promised, I'm going to show you a viewer's quilt. This is Sheila Call. I hope I'm saying that right. She posted this on my Facebook group, and I love it. It is so beautiful. And if you look at the corner of this picture, you can see there's like a blue and white one that she's also making, possibly. That's gonna be beautiful too. I am so honored that you are taking patterns and making quilts out of them. It just makes my heart happy, because that's what this is all about. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you take some time to sew. I hope you take some time to make some scrappy quilts and use up some of those scraps, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.